Welcome. You are here live, official with the Guru's Rant. You're here with your host, Dennis Lindsay. And welcome to our first edition for the 2022 NFL season. And we're going to kick it off talking about, we're going to start out with this past weekend's game, FAMU versus UNC. That was a pretty good game and a unique game. And let me tell you why. Because FAMU was missing 20 players, and most of those players were starters that they were missing, and yet they still managed to hang in there against UNC, even though the score didn't really show it. They really put up a valiant effort, and kudos to FAMU because they almost weren't going to wasn't was not going to play the game because they felt like they just didn't have enough firepower. And I want to just commend those guys for going out there and putting up a tremendous effort uh, at UNC. Uh, UNC had 29 first downs to FAMU's 20, so they hung in there. They had 335 total yards FAMU versus UNC's 608 total yards. And let me just say something. Even FAMU plays in the WAC. They have a really good quarterback in Jay Mosa. You know, he was 28 of 38 for 279 yards, two touchdowns, and only one interception against a very good young North Carolina defense. And keep in mind, this is an ACC team going against a SWAC team, and this is why these games are important for the SWAC because they're starting to show that they can recruit, they can get the players, and who knows if they had their full roster, this game would have been a lot more competitive, especially when you look at the stats and you see the 29 first down versus the 20 first downs. That's pretty impressive. Xavier Smith, the wide receiver for FAMU, 10 catches for 78 yards. He's a senior out of Florida. Pretty good wide receiver. It was pretty much a one-man show between him and Jay Mosa. And so you can expect a lot more from them. They really balled out. I was impressed with how they played. So that brings us to Jackson State, who's also on the SWAC. They're a team that, obviously has reloaded. They have several FBS transfers. You have obviously the number one player in the country in Travis Hunter. Jackson State pulled that coup right there. And you're going to pair him with Shedeur Sanders, who's going into year two in this system, this offensive system, and expect big things out of him. You have linebacker you had two of the top 100 recruits in the nation. Travis Hunter obviously being one of them, and the other transfer, what is his name? Damn it, you got to forgive me here. It'll come to me. But anyway, what's his name? Oh, Kevin Coleman. Kevin Coleman, wide receiver. Excuse me. That's a wide receiver for Jackson State. Kevin Coleman. He is a four-star receiver out of, I believe, Minnesota, and he was a top 100 recruit as well. Also, Antonio Doyle Jr., one of the most coveted linebackers coming out of high school in 2020. He is a four-star. He was a four-star recruit, transferred from Texas A&M to Jackson State. So this is a lot of firepower in the SWAC right now. So when FAMU meets up with Jackson State, we should expect a really good showdown with all the recruits that are have entered the portal this past year with the NIL name, image, likeness situation where players can move. It makes for heady competition for college football this season. We're going to move on over to the NFL, and we're going to talk about Baker Mayfield and the Carolina Panthers. Now, Baker Mayfield has obviously won the starting quarterback job over Sam Darnold. That wasn't going to be much of a competition if you've ever seen Sam Darnold play. And I've told people this a couple years ago. Listen, I like the young man, but he just doesn't have it. He throws way too many interceptions. He doesn't seem to have confidence when he's in the pocket, doesn't read the defense very well. Coverages seems to be reading coverages seems to be like a foreign language to him. So getting back to Baker Mayfield, new season in Carolina. You have the coach who's on a hot seat, basically, and you have Baker, who's, let's face it, he's on a fifth-year option, as is Josh Darnold, and he's playing for a future contract. Now, their receivers, you have Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore. So you have really two formidable receivers. You have Christian McCaffrey, former MVP runner-up in the backfield, who's returning from injury. So I just want to pump the brakes really quick on Carolina Panthers going to the playoffs. They're not going to the playoffs. I'm sorry to tell you that, but they should be pretty competitive, in a rebuilding stage. I'm not going to say just because they have the former number one overall pick and he performed well in preseason. I mean, hell, they were against backups. Now, if he was a backup himself, like Shannon Sharp had said, that would have made more sense to be like, okay, this guy's got something. But, we're talking about the former number one overall pick just 3 years ago, 4 years ago. So stay tuned with that. Everyone seems to be on the Carolina bandwagon. I would say be cautious. Let this play out, and let's see if Baker has learned since he's been in Cleveland, because he has a fresh start and he'll be able to lead a really good team. So let's see what happens with that. Okay. Let's move on to Justin Fields and the Chicago Bears. I know a lot of people will say, "Oh, you're biased," but I tell you this: Justin Fields looked really good in preseason, and I can say that people will say, "Well, you said Baker, looked good in preseason, and he was the number two pick. I mean, number one overall pick. That's not a big deal." You have to understand that Justin Fields has a brand new coach, a brand new system. He has, obviously there's more leeway. They're gearing the offense more to what he likes to do and what he can do, and that was illustrated over this past weekend when they were playing football. Just very accurate. Can see the field. He's throwing at all three levels of the football field, making great reads. They have their running back position seems to be really solid. You have Daryl Mooney returning at wide receiver, Cole Kmet at tight end. So he's solid there. And the thing is just finding someone to be on the other side of Daryl Mooney. Now that could be N'Keal Harry, but he stays injured. We know he came from the Patriots. We don't even know what he can do. So the jury's still out. And then you can have Equinemius St. Brown, who came from Green Bay. We know that he has some really good skill. He looked really good in preseason. Him and Justin Fields seems to be clicking. They seem to be, those two seem to be everywhere that Justin Fields needs them to be on the field when he's trying to target them. So watch out for the Bears. I feel like they're a team that, that can win the North. I know people will say you gotta be crazy, but I really believe that Justin Fields is that difference maker. So if I could give an early prediction, just watch out for the Bears. Okay, they really, they have a quarterback, and he'll make people around him better. They have David Montgomery, so they're going to give him his carries. He's definitely going to get his carries, and that's going to open up the passing game. This is a guy who threw 43 touchdowns and one interception, I believe, his junior year, and yet he still somehow fell in the draft. I felt like, he's the forgotten guy in that draft that had Trevor Lawrence and the young man out of BYU, Zach. What is his name? There you go. Zach Taylor, I guess his name, something like that. And then you have the quarterback for the 49ers, Trey Lance. So looking at Justin Fields, everyone's kind of forgetting about him. Look for the Bears to get out the gate really strong to begin the season. All right. So, we covered a lot of bases with some of the things that I wanted to discuss. I got a lot of hot stuff coming up for you. You have to keep in mind that this is my first show for this year. I appreciate all those who's watching. I see I have a viewer right now. Um, so thank you for watching. More content to come. A little bit more fluid when I do present, the information that I have coming to you. So I just wanted to say thank you for watching Guru's Rant, and I'll see you next time.